Alright guys, today we are discussing the best squad setup for ultimate success and victory. Now this subject has been on my mind for a little while and I thought it'd be interesting to come up with the ideal squad composition. Preferably you are a pre-made squad, but fingers crossed enough people will see this video and it will start to happen naturally in the wild. Fingers crossed. It does happen on occasion, but it is fairly rare. Now first we will look at general warfare squad setup and then we'll move on to the more specific defense on offense. Now if you have a different setup that you think is better than mine, let me know down in the comments, or if you agree with mine, also let me know. Leave a like, as it is an incredible way to support me, and subscribe for more Hell Let Loose and other tactical serious shooters. Now obviously the non-negotiable role is the squad leader. Every single squad should have one, absolutely no excuses or exceptions. Preferably they are competent, one who knows the basics of the role and the game, and they can at least put down an OP and a garrison. Now that is the bare minimum that I'm looking for. Obviously an incredible squad leader who is channeling Dick Winters or Spears would be much more preferable. However, things are a little bit bleak out there, so I will happily take regular OPs as standard. Now the rest are in absolutely no order, but I believe they are all vital for the perfect squad. Now first up, support, ideally at level 3. Now your primary is going to be something automatic, submachine gun. Now depending on which faction you're in, these can vary wildly on their usefulness, but at close ranges most of them will do the job. Now moving on to your equipment, you can place supply boxes down. This will help your team build garrisons, or a fellow engineer build nodes, or your AT gunner build an AT gun should that be the requirement. But on top of that, the level 3 comes with an ammo box and explosive ordnance box, which will keep your lads well stocked with bullets, grenades, rockets, satchels, all the ingredients to make you unbearable to the enemy. And that leads nicely onto anti-tank. I firmly believe that every squad should have a default anti-tank player as standard. Now obviously their primary function is anti-tank, hunting down, destroying tanks, transport or supply trucks, or even a pesky garrison that you see that you just can't be bothered to run through the field to go and get. However, when there are no tanks, they will act as a rifleman. They usually come with a bolt action rifle or the M1 Garand as standard. They have 2 grenades and a handy stabber for those close quarter situations that we all love. Now you can also go for the level 6 loadout, which provides you with an automatic weapon, landmines and a satchel. Now this is not for the novice. Be warned, this is a treacherous role to take. It requires a little bit more patience, a little bit more skill, and balls of steel, let's be honest. Both are brilliant. Personally, I prefer the default level just because you are a fairly well-rounded player that can also dish out the hate on tanks. Now I hear people saying, what about the ammo? Well, I just mentioned that. Support level 3. Boom. More ammo for everyone. Now we'll touch on the AT gun later on in the video when we talk about defense. But next we need some more firepower. Some firepower supremacy, as I believe it's called. And nothing says keep your head down scrub than an MG laying down the hate. Solid bullets ripping through walls, wood, faces, butts, and even trucks. These boys are brilliant. If you are trying to advance on an enemy position, maybe they've got a little bit of a foothold in their bunkers or their trenches, no matter. The MG can open up and lay down the hate, covering your boys as they push. Now, some caveats. The Americans, as standard, get the Browning 30 cal. This has 250 rounds, slightly medium rate of fire. It's deadly accurate. It will scare the living poop out of anyone. However, if you're playing German, the 34 is the standard, still very accurate, very solid weapon, however, only 50 rounds. They will disappear in the blink of an eye. So preferably, if you're playing German, you want to be level 3, get that MG42. Really, really send the message that you hate the other player. Now Russians, unfortunately, have the DP27, which, while very accurate, sounds really nice and chunky. You've got less than 50. I think it's like a handful of bullets, some twigs, anything else that looks reasonably like a bullet is in that gun. But then you come to the British. Oh dear, the British. Now, they have the Lewis gun. I actually quite enjoy this gun. It's actually quite accurate. It sounds amazing. It packs a punch. However, I can't see a goddamn thing through the sights. So if they could fix the sights on that thing, we'd be laughing. However, the alternative for the MG roll is a Bren gun without a bipod, my lord. And yeah, it doesn't really square up. It feels like a downgrade when you've grinded through MG to get another roll. Personally, I'd like to see the Vickers. I realise it's a bit of a heavier gun, but I feel like it could be deployed. I think it's reasonable to put that in there, considering some of the weirder changes that they've made to historic accuracy. Just chuck a Vickers in. Everyone would love it, and you could compete with the MG42 then with the 250 round hot plate on top, dishing out the hate. And once again, when we move on to defense, these guys are invaluable to keeping the enemy push at bay. Now, next up, maybe controversial for some, a little bit less for others, but a medic. And a medic at level 3. Yes, you are losing a player who can engage at any kind of range other than face to face, nose to nose. And I mean, unless you're me, of course. But you will have someone who can pick up your boys as they fall, fixing their boo-boos, and even supplying them with extra bandages. Incredible. But above all of that, you get a lot more smokes. 4 to be exact. And that is coupled with your squad leaders 2 or 3 depending on which loadout they've chosen, and then taking into account that you have a support player who can resupply all of those smokes within an instant. Boom. You have just created a fog so impressive that John Carpenter just weed a little bit. Now, the last pick on the list took a little bit more time to consider, so the toss-up is between engineer, assault, rifleman, or automatic rifleman. Now, this is tricky because all of these loadouts are slightly different depending on which faction. Now, the Americans' rifleman gets an M1 Garand, which is an amazing weapon for everyone, an all-rounder. However, if you take automatic rifleman level 9 to get that sweet, sweet satchel, you are potentially lumbered with the M3 grease gun, which, now there are some people out there who are clearly a higher being and love the M3 grease gun. Personally, I can get on with it quite well, on occasion. But sometimes, it honestly feels like I'm shooting potatoes. Other times, that thing is hunting heads. It's very, very mixed bag. But if you were German assault level with the satchel, you get the STG-44. It all depends on the faction. So maybe for this last roll, it is more personal preference, but if someone put a gun to my head and I had to choose one within like 5 seconds, or I would have my brains blown out all over Sainte-Marie-du-Mont, I'd probably just take assault level 1. You get grenades, you get an automatic submachine gun. Germans get the MP40, very accurate. The Thompson, close range, unbeatable fire rate, a little bit harder to control, but with practice can be done. The Russians obviously get the PPSH-41, which creates a wall of death in front of your enemy, which is hard to escape. Yes, it's a little bit harder to control, but a lot of times you don't need to. If you're at close range, they're dead. Some people just give up when they see you with the PPSH. They don't even try and fight. They know that their time is up. It's incredible. And the British get the Sten gun, which, while its sights are a little bit blocky at the moment, I'm sure with a little bit of refinement similar to what the M1 Garand got, it'll actually become quite a formidable weapon. Like the MP40, it's quite medium rate of fire, but it's quite accurate. It sounds awesome, and you also get 32 rounds, I think, if that's correct. Let me know if it's not. Don't shut my face, that's fine. Now that covers pretty much most situations in warfare and probably an attacking squad in offensive. However, defense in offensive requires some tweaks, modifications to this setup. Now, one change from the previous setup is you might want to consider the AT roll switching to an AT gun, at least at the very beginning. If you found yourself a decent position, you can set this gun up and you can slow down any potential pushes from infantry and probably destroy a fair few tanks on the way. And obviously your support player can help with this, so that's good news. Now, a really well placed AT gun can really hammer the enemy and stop them coming down those main roads, clip them out of cover if they're holding back a bit too much. It's just an all-rounder. Get one built right at the beginning, and then you can switch back to the other role and the thing just sits there. So that's a really good option. Now, The assault role could probably switch to engineer, who with the support player can now get down some decent fortifications, traps, anything to slow down the enemy basically. And with the added help of supply trucks, you could build something pretty terrifying. Something to give your boys cover, a place to shoot from, potentially even elevated, slow them down in any possible way. And once again, once everything's built, you can go back to assault and keep the hate going down range. Those are the only real tweaks I think you need to make. The rest of them will work at any situation. Now, I'm pretty sure people have their own versions of this, and I'm very interested to see, because I wouldn't mind trying out some different variations if anyone's got anything. Maybe you're a squad leader who just wants riflemen. Just 5 riflemen in the squad being absolute nutcases. Let me know down in the comments. Remember to leave a like and subscribe, as I'm going to be doing some more Hell Let Loose streams, especially when the update drops, probably the day after it drops. And if you're in the mood for something a little bit different, check the hell out of this 6 Days in Fallujah video, which has some very tense and exciting gameplay, and you also get to hear me and Rex slowly lose our minds. It's very entertaining. That's all from me. I will catch all of you in the next one.